I'll just do it like this. fRoD, thank you so much for giving me the time. Congrats on the W. First W of the year. That happening against EG. Just want to ask you about, first and foremost, your thoughts, your emotions, finally getting this done, though it is happening at the very end of the year for you.
Yeah, I mean, we had a pretty solid kickoff, and then we just couldn't get things going in the first split. I think we had some issues there, and we had to make a change. And going into split two, more problems ensued. Um, I was telling the guys in another interview as well that I basically had four different lineups in a span of 3 weeks, just from mixing and matching of what we're trying to do. And then finally, we were able to get our guys, and our guys landed 24 hours before Super Week started. So it's just been quite a mess. Like we brought this on ourselves in a way, by playing poorly and also making changes in the midseason. Um, so I think that everyone is just extremely happy right now. We knew that we were eliminated from the playoffs before Split Two even started, right? So we had a different objective going into this split because the format's just terrible. I mean, just everyone knows that. So we had a different objective which was to win games and evolve as a team, make sure that we're on the right path towards next year, that we're recruiting the right players, giving the right players opportunities, and trying to see if we can mold them. And I think that even though we only won one game, given that we only played three with this kind of roster and stuff like that, we really only were able to get the last two games in with like proper practice. So, I'm really excited for the guys to end the year on a victory. And I'm also excited for the off season. We're gonna stay back here for like we're not gonna go home right now. We're gonna keep practicing. We lost a lot of time with this roster. We were ideally trying to like when we recruited these guys, we didn't even like try them out or anything. We just like picked them up from the dark, and we didn't even practice with them until they landed for Super Week. So I think for us, like I said, our focus is a long term, and even though we've been eliminated and are eliminated, our goals are to improve as a team and to do all that we can for next year. And that starts today. Like we're gonna take tomorrow off and we're gonna go back to practice, regardless of where we stand, regardless of elimination. We're going to do the best that we can and take advantage of this off season, play as much tournaments as we can, boot camp if possible, and just really reshift our focus towards next year, which is where it's been kind of the last several months. But we're going to put it more into practice by training and making sure that the guys stay focused. And like I said, even though our year's done in that competitive match sense, it's not done by nothing when it comes to training and what we plan to do towards the off season.
Definitely showed the evolution and the gradual improvement of this team. From the moment those two other people, touched down in LA from Brazil and facing off against Loud, and then moving on from that until now. What do you think made the difference from just in this match in particular? Because of course, coming out of it with a W, what do you think made a difference for this occasion in terms of performance, preparation, and everything else? Sort of like.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when the guys landed, we were only able to get like a couple scrims before we played Loud. Um, we had no idea what kind of style the guys like, what kind of agent pool the guys have in the repertoire. So for someone like myself that was one of the main pieces to doing the Harbor Viper stuff last year, that stuff doesn't just like come to me and boom, we put into practice. It takes a little bit of thinking, looking at my players, what their skill set is, to then kind of mold and move around pieces, maybe change an agent. Like Harbor Viper stuff started out with Sova in the mix, and then it was kind of like, well, the Utah doesn't really complement that much, so maybe we're gonna do Sky, things like that. So uh, I know that we don't have time in this industry like that. It's performance based. We got to show results quick. But when it comes to trying to innovate and trying to bring some new stuff to the table, it does take a little bit of time. And even if it's just a week or two, and I wasn't even able to get that until finally now. And I think that after the last game, we were able to get I was able to get a good idea of what the guys do and how they like to play. And from there on out, we were able to come up with some new comps like the comp on Bind. We had something really nice cooked up for Sunset as well. So I think on a lot of maps, we were finally now starting to catch form where we can be adaptive and change comps around, change strats around. The first couple weeks when the guys got here, especially during Super Week, it's like our focus is just creating a base, just creating some sort of defaults and some basics so we know how to operate and what to do. And once we get a little bit more practice, I'm able to do things to try and bring the best out of my players and trying to find comps and different strats that suit their play style. And I think that that time really benefited us now that we were able to, things weren't working. We weren't winning some games, even though we were kind of playing that default style for a little while. And the boys basically told me, or Mazin, the IGL, told me, like, look, you need to come up with some new comps, new ideas, and we're just gonna go all in this week on it. So I think that that was a really big focus of mine this week, just to come up with some new stuff, train very hard on it, and now that we had it several weeks of a base, and now we can practice a full week with some new ideas. I think we were able to finally show a little bit more of what we can do, and also get the guys some experience because that's something that they're lacking heavily, and it only comes from jumping in the fire.
Yeah, it's a major tragedy just to see this result, these fruits of the labor just happen at the very end, literally at the very end of the year. And it's a good thing to know that you guys are gonna just continue this season going, although it's officially over, but still the work continues and the progress never ends from now until next year. I just want to ask you about just sort of reflection once again on just your time in MIBR for this year, as a head coach. What do you think was the biggest positives and negatives you saw within this team from your current position in an overall sense in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a year full of challenges. I would say it's been one of the most difficult when it comes to results wise in my whole entire career, like even when I was a pro player. And as a coach, it doesn't really matter that much to me. Like my results, my job here is to impart wisdom and to, show the way to my guys. But without a doubt, if it's my worst year, it's 100% their worst year because we weren't winning anything, right? So I think this year was very challenging to not only keep myself positive, but keep my players positive and focused despite all the obstacles and losses that we had. So it's just a year of a lot of learning. No matter how old we are or whatever, we're always learning and we're always after something to try and improve ourselves and get better. And I think that this was one of the most challenging years in my career, but also one of the most rewarding in that sense that I was able to gain a lot more gray hair, but also a lot more wisdom in the process. That my job will be to pass that on to my players and to grow from this to do all we can to never let something like this happen again.
What do you feel it should? What do you feel is the biggest takeaway that the players should take away from experiencing a year slash a stage like this? Despite being mostly in the bottom standings wise, but still, what do you think is the biggest takeaway that you feel the rest of the team should have?
Um, uh, I mean, from my point of view, I think it's the experience, but I think what they're gonna say or what is probably more suited for them is just how insane the competition is here. Some of these guys without that experience and without experiencing what has to offer, they're just in their country or their region, and they're one of the best in their region. But NA is a different beast. The best of the best are in this country competing at the highest level, and they realized a lot that some of the stuff that they do, some of the puggy plays that they do in Brazil and stuff, just doesn't work here. You have people with so much talent, so much teamwork, and teams that just really focus so much. So I think that this was an eye-opening experience for those players, not only just living the dream and experiencing the stage and everything that Riot and MIBR has to offer there, but from a personal level, I think that they're gonna really take a lot of this experience back as far as like that there's just another level of gaming. Like you think you're at the top, well, there's an extra level that everyone else has to be at, and in order to be the best, it's the tiniest of margins. But that's where I think that these guys they've realized that, and it's about it's my job to kind of focus on that and make sure that we improve on those little tiny margins. But I think for them, it's an eye-opening experience, especially because I warned them about these things, but warning someone and telling someone it's never going to be the same as experiencing and living through it, right? So I think that them going through all these obstacles was something that's going to stay with them for the rest of their career, and we're really hoping that they can put all that together for next year to have a much better year.
Plenty of people has given their opinions on the format. I know you've given your opinions in this very conversation, and on and on. I agree in this sense that it's not really good. Having to play so many matches at such a condensed or such a short amount of time, uh, I feel is not the way to go. What do you feel for you, fRoD? Uh, Riot should do differently in terms of just having to stretch out or make a better overall calendar for VCT Americas and also other regions. What do you feel should be done?
Yeah, I mean, stretching out the calendar is going to be a huge help, especially with teams wanting to make roster changes. Like, I don't agree with having a roster lock, kind of in between split two, but you recruit players before split two and they still can't even get here on time. Like, it makes no sense. Like, the roster lock and all that stuff has to be aligned with how we can get players over here and stuff like that. So I think that everything needs to change, to be honest with you. I think that Riot needs to look at their player locks. Last year they locked it before lock in. Now they lock it middle of split two. Like, it makes no sense how they do that because, if the roster lock was early in the year, like, we wouldn't have maybe had this opportunity to make some changes. But at the same time, I mean, all three teams from Brazil pretty much got screwed over by the visa stuff. I mean, Shand and Furia and Pancada and Loud. I mean, us with three new players. I mean, it was terrible for the whole entire region. You're looking at almost 30% of your franchise teams can't even bring over players. I mean, there's a flaw in this system. Even though we're an NA based league, over or 50% of the league is LATAM based. We need to look at LATAM and we need to focus on making something that's unified for all the regions involved in Americas, not just NA. And then also when you look at the calendar and the qualifications, like Furia will be making a Masters if this group mattered. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it makes no sense how have a kickoffs basic tournament and then you qualify for a Masters. A split one, you qualify for a Masters, and a split two basically means nothing. It's just like the final touch on the year for everyone. And look at NRG. They played their 10th game and were eliminated, and their year's done. With July 7th. That was a week ago.
Hmm.
They're not playing this week because they have a bye. It makes no sense. And that's where I think that, like, I understand Riot's point of view that they have to think about these things, but I really don't know if they're factoring in other regions and this kind of just the whole entire calendar, right? Yeah, to me it doesn't make any sense. I mean, the way they had it now, they could have thrown another Masters between. They can have another Masters. Why not? And then have a Champions. I mean, make this a little bit more longer for everyone. I think when you look at a team, I understand the point of the best teams are going to play a lot and the worst teams are going to play a little. I lived through both sides of it. Last year with Loud and this year with mibr. We're at the bottom. We're at the top last year, at the bottom last year. I don't agree with the players complaining about the schedule being too crazy last year. I thought it was just fine, and I thought that they could have spread it out a little bit better. But then now you live the other end of it, where you are having a bad year, and you basically play 3-4 months and you're done. I get it. Like, we need to earn the right to be on camera more and to play for our fans more. Totally agree with that. But I also don't agree with how condensed and like funky this format is. Doesn't really make any sense. And people will want to say, "Oh, it's 11 teams next year with 12 teams is going to get better." That only resolves the buy situation. That's not going to resolve the format, the visa problems, all these things. So, I think I understand Riot has a lot of people that are involved in making a lot of these decisions, but I'm not sure if they're tapping into the pros, the coaches, to get some of their opinions on these things. And I think that will be very valuable because we have a different experience of our lives than Riot and Rioters have with them and constructing and running the tournaments and stuff. So I think what goes on in our camp, the players and the coaches and the ground floor, I think that should factor a lot into how Riot looks into the future and what changes they want to make for the format, because there's not a chance that this format's going to be back. It's terrible.
Yeah, for sure. That is one thing that I will agree with. Just changes need to be made to the schedule. fRoD, really do appreciate you taking the time doing this interview at the very end of the season. Unfortunately, I can't talk to you much more, but hopefully I can do that. Sometime in the future, maybe in the off season. Maybe I'll send it a request sometime in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
future.
absolutely.
For sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
appreciate you, man, and I'm always available for these things. Appreciate you, and your time and everything. So,
All
if
right,
you guys ever need anything or any questions, you could always hit me up.
of course. No more questions to ask. Since this is the end, you got any final words to share to anyone that's listening?
I just want to give a big shout out to my friends and family at home. Also to MIBR, to our players, to their families. You know, it's been a long year. Hasn't been a great year, but hopefully we're able to end it on a note that kind of brings a little bit of positivity to what we're trying to do. And the famous saying, "We'll be back stronger." So I think that this is something that we definitely had a rough year, but we're looking forward to spending some time with our loved ones. But we're also very animated to just keep working and to erase this year and kind of write a new story for us next year.
Right on, fRoD. Really do appreciate you taking the time as always. And again, thank you so much, and best of luck in the future off season and everything else after that.
Perfect, man. Thank you, Pedro. Have a good day.